Texted me. Okay.
It's definitely cool. I mean, I have no problems with the character. From everything I've heard, it's actually a great book.
Uh-huh.
I haven't read it myself, unfortunately.
Have you read it?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh, dude, please read it. Please,
I was gonna pick up the first issue. It
please
was
read it. It's
completely
so good.
sold out. It was completely sold out in my shop. So I think I'll wait for the first try.
Dude,
I'll wait for the first.
well, I got it. I pulled it. I jumped on the bandwagon late because I hadn't figured out where my local shop was yet because I just moved, and I'm moving again, yay! But
That's the first thing I do when I move.
I always find the library first. But yeah, and so I didn't get it until we were on issue 3, but I back ordered 1 and 2, and dude, totally worth it, totally worth it. It's so good. So also, it does fully explain in the book like why she's Ms. Marvel, and that no, she doesn't have the same powers, but like the explanation of why she chose to go as Ms. Marvel, why she's under that banner, actually makes perfect sense.
Okay.
And
See, that was my only problem with the character.
Well, it's really funny because literally, like, it's that her character, she's obsessed with Captain.
Oh.
She's like a super fan. She writes Avengers fanfic. She is straight up obsessed with the Avengers. And so, do you want me to explain how it happens? Or because it's in the first issue.
Well, isn't she like an Inhuman now? Isn't that part of her origin
Not
is?
really. No, she is human. Well, she was human. And then there was this gas that passed through.
Yeah, the Inhumans.
Yeah, and so.
They activated all the latent Inhumans in the
Yeah,
human.
but she has this vision of the Avengers in front of her. And they're like, "What do you want?" And she's like, "I want to be you." and it's really funny because she has this whole thing of being like, "I want to be just like you." Like, and I not your new costume. I want the thigh-high boots and the like wedges and like I want the politically incorrect costume. And then she's transformed into it and she's walking around. She's like, "This is so uncomfortable. I have such a wedgie right now. Okay. Oh no. Oh no." And it's this really interesting thing of she's like, "Well, I don't want to be Kamala Khan. I want to be Ms. Marvel." And then she is. So she gets shape-shifting powers.
Yeah, I gathered that from.
It takes her a while to really get a hold of them. But she uses them to be blonde and pretty. And it's just so interesting. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I love it. So.
I've heard it's good. But we're not going to talk about that because that's not what this...
We're not talking about Ms. Marvel today because we're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
2, yes.
And probably 1 will sneak in there too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because 1, it's a continuation of the story and everything, so...
Elizabeth is not here this week because she is in Disneyland. Let us all scorn her publicly.
I actually don't envy her. Last night I was like, thinking that'd be cool to go to Disneyland, but then I realized Mother's Day, it's probably crowded.
Actually, you're right. Mother's Day in Disneyland does sound terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I mostly just don't want to be here. But that's because I'm sick and miserable and there's orange juice all over everything, so.
Debbi is not having a good day.
Debbie's not having a good day. Debbi has a cold, and immediately before crossover appeal, dumped half a gallon of orange juice on her bed by accident. On her really clean sheets and thing of clean laundry. So, yeah, I've had better days.
And Dan is on his way.
Oh, okay.
He just texted me. He is en route. And he has much to say about The Amazing Spider-Man.
He really does.
Most of it negative.
I know, it's hilarious, because I really loved this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Whoa, Patrick, we agreed on something and Dan disagrees with us?
I know. It's normally like,
Really not how it normally works.
no. But yeah, but that's the thing though. I've been seeing a lot of people hating on this movie, and I just don't get it.
Me neither. I enjoyed the crap out of it. I was so into it. Yeah, I don't get it. I actually, though, personally, the thing that's bothered me most is I saw a bunch of feminist websites that they weren't hating on it because it was like anti-feminist or anything. They were just sort of like, yeah, it's okay, it's kind of boring. And I'm sitting there going, how can you not appreciate that this is like a singularly feminist superhero movie? The entire thing is about Gwen Stacy's consent. Like, Gwen Stacy makes her own choices. Gwen Stacy chooses her life path. Gwen Stacy, character with agency. How do you not love that? She literally gives entire speeches of basically, I make my choices. Me, not you, not my father. I choose what I do. I love you.
Yeah.
I just, uh, how is there not more feminist love for this movie? This movie is amazing.
And yeah, I don't understand the hate. I haven't been able to figure it out. And it's like, I haven't heard anyone point to something specific. They're just like, I don't like it.
Well, I'm sure Dan will do a lot of pointing.
Oh, yeah.
But, no, I would agree. Like, I really liked it. I really liked that there were two villains. Because let's be real, like, we're not counting Rhino as a real villain in this
No.
movie. He's totally not in it. But it really worked as a great epilogue. And I like the idea of setting Harry up as the mastermind. I thought that was really clever. Like, okay, Harry's going to be the one running things from behind the scenes in the next movie. Okay, that makes sense. And like, just in general, I felt like both of the villain stories needed each other to exist. And in that sense, it didn't feel like there were two villain stories. It felt like there was one. Because the whole movie is about now that now that Peter is no longer acting primarily because of something that he did. Like, he's not atoning for something he did now. He's not trying to get revenge on who killed Uncle Ben. He's really just doing this to help people. Now the question becomes, how does Spider-Man best help people? Like, this whole movie is basically an exploration of the idea of, can you help everyone? Or are there some people you ultimately really can't help? And in that sense, Spider-Man's never been about fighting the villain. Spider-Man's been about saving the people, which are two very different things, and not something I think we recognize enough. So in that sense, we really needed villains who were specifically angry at Spider-Man as a person, like on a personal level, not because Spider-Man had done something to them, but because of their own interpretations of his actions and their perception that he did not help them. And I think that was really important to understand that the real issue of Spider-Man ultimately comes down to, how do you help people? Is there a right way to do that? And is there a right way you should do that? So, I really liked it.
And should you always help people?
Should you always help people?
Because you think about it, had Spider-Man just let that car hit Max Dillon, it would have saved him a huge headache.
But that's the interesting thing is, he would never do that. And what I thought was really interesting was that with the whole character, at no point did they actually make it Spider-Man's fault. It's not his fault. Like, when Max is freaking out in Times Square, and he's like, don't you remember me? Yeah, Spider-Man actually does. He doesn't remember the guy's name, but he actually looks at him and goes, oh, right, I saved you in your blueprints 6 months ago. Doing a thing that I do pretty much every day. I happen to remember this one specific instance. And I really like that scene because it's saying, these people, they're reading things into Spider-Man's behavior. that aren't necessarily there and really aren't there at all. But that it's about their interpretation of his actions more than his actions themselves. Because so much of Spider-Man is public perception, ultimately it almost doesn't matter what he did. It doesn't matter that he told Harry, like, hey, give me more time, I need to figure out how to do this without killing you. Because what Harry heard was, no. And it doesn't matter that he totally remembered who Max was. What matters is that he didn't remember Max's name. So, I just think that is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And good storytelling. Hi, Dan.
Hello. Sorry, I am late. I am in the
Okay.
process of moving, so
Hey, good for you.
very soon I will be coming from a different location. So,
Where are you moving to?
Sherman Oaks.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
So
I'm
when
moving.
we can go to the Oaks.
Yes, I'm going to be at Ventura and Willis.
Hmm.
So, I'll be right over there, a lot closer to the ArcLight as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was taking over just some small stuff today.
That's cool.
Oh.
So yes, we were just discussing how much we love Spider-Man.
Hmm.
We figured we'd get that out of the way so that when you showed up, it would just be the hate show.
I appreciate that. You know, like I spent a lot of time thinking about it over the week, and the thing about it is, like, I don't really hate I don't hate the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't like sort of what it represents in the fact that this is the I think I mentioned this at the end of the last episode. This is the pendulum swinging back the other way from the Avengers, where you had a bunch of movies that led up to a team, and the team movie was amazing, and everybody loved it, and then Hollywood was like, oh crap, like if we can fit as many characters as possible into a movie, then we can have these thousands of other things happen. And so, to me, like, my main problem with Spider-Man 2 was that I didn't feel like it was a Spider-Man movie. I felt like it was the Sinister Six Zero. Like, it was all just setting up that so that they could go off and make those movies. So, that was my opinion of it. I do have my list still, though, Patrick.
See, I would disagree. For me, this actually felt like the ultimate Spider-Man movie. I've been very open about my intense hatred of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, because for me, they never felt like Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was a dick. Because that character was a selfish prick.
Yeah, I mean,
like him.
when after I left the movie theater, and I think you both know Evelyn, right, from NIFA?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went and hung out and saw the movie. And we saw Captain America 2 also. And we left the theater, and I was like, man, it's so crazy to have those. I mean, they're the same universe, even. I mean, they're both Marvel movies. But to me, it was like, how can Spider-Man be not that good when Captain... I mean, I'm getting off on a tangent. But anyway, the point of it is, when I left, I said to her, I was like, that movie was Spider-Man 2. The old Spider-Man 2. Like, it was, they rehashed the story, if you look at it, because it's about the main villain constructs an energy device that's going to provide energy for the entire city. He gets corrupted morally, so he turns into the bad guy and tries to kill Spider-Man. The entire movie, Peter is rejecting his girlfriend because he's afraid for her safety, and then at the end, the villain is killed at the power thing that he constructed. Because that's the whole Doc Ock story, is that he creates the fusion machine, and then he kills himself to save the city. And it's like, I mean, I know they're not the exact same story, but I was like, that is really bizarre to have those two storylines be so strikingly similar in the reboot. Like, I just thought that was really weird.
I didn't think it was particularly surprising. I mean, I've noticed that this is kind of a thing that we do, but
Yeah.
like, hello, Star Trek reboot.
Well, yeah.
Like, it's exactly the same. But I see the reason. Okay, so I never got into the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. I hate them because Peter is such a prick, and because those movies were about fighting the bad guy. And Spider-Man is not about fighting the bad guy. Spider-Man is about saving the people who happen to be in the vicinity of the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I loved about this movie, was that this movie was always about Peter trying to help people. Like, now we've moved past all his baggage and crap from the origin story, thank goodness, and we can just get on to what Peter Parker does, which is ultimately, he really likes helping people. He has fun helping people. He enjoys being Spider-Man, and he is Spider-Man, ultimately, because he's a good person. And so I really enjoyed watching a movie where, you know, he's trying to talk down Max in Times Square. And when that doesn't work, his first instinct isn't to lash out at Max. His first instinct is to go, oh my gosh, there are those people on the steps. How do I save the people on the steps?
Yeah.
And
I agree with you on that, because this movie did a lot of things. I mean, in that Times Square scene when Max first shows up and causes that like shockwave effect, the first thing that Spider-Man does is save the cop that the car is flying at.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do a lot of stuff like that in that movie that shows him just helping people.
Well, and it just shows that, I mean, he's about, yeah, he just wants to help people. And that his heroism, the thing about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man never saves the world.
Yeah.
That's not his storyline. He saves little old ladies from getting mugged. That's his thing. He just likes to help people on an actual individual basis. And so I liked that this movie, it was, while the villains were big and scary, they were also really personal. I was talking to Patrick about this on, that I really liked the villain arc in this movie because both the villains were people who Peter genuinely tried to help, but wasn't able to help in a way that they found sufficient, and they hated him because of it.
Yeah.
The ultimate question of the movie becomes, how much should you help someone?
Yeah.
At what point does helping someone become hurting yourself?
I mean, I'll admit totally that a lot of my problems with this movie are mechanical. Like the scene where Peter and Aunt May are in his room and she's seen the big spread of everything that he's put up there. Fantastically acted scene. Both Sally Field and Andrew Garfield are amazing in it. But the thing that kills me about it is she sits there and she goes through the whole thing about, like, you're my boy. Like, I'm not going to tell you what happened to your parents because your dad was a horrible person. And then he, like, puts his forehead against hers, says, like, 2 lines, and then backs away. And she goes, all right, here's everything I know. And I was like, what? Why? Like, that makes no sense for her to just change her mind that quickly, being so adamantly against it, and then just, like, flipping on a dime. Like, it just seems super, super out of character to me.
See, for me, I didn't mind that scene because I got that. Like, her biggest fear is that Peter doesn't love her the way she loves him, like, that he really doesn't see her as his mother. And for him to reestablish their bond, but then point out that this in no way takes away from their bond, but that he really needs it from her, I can totally see how she would just crumple like wet paper. Also, honestly, I mean, like, in that scene, when she's giving all those, no, I won't, I absolutely won't, honestly, dude, she's like 2 seconds away from telling him. It's really one of those, like, tell me please? Okay, fine, I'll tell you. I mean, that's how I read the scene, was like, you're really just going to have to poke a little bit to get this.
Yeah, there's just something about it that it seemed like he got what he wanted too easy. I don't know.
I mean, for me, I really appreciated also that this film had really interesting female character story arcs. That Gwen's
Hmm.
story arc was so interesting, and that it was so feminist. I loved it. It was, hey, you know what? You've been dicking me around trying to protect me when I've already determined that I make my own choices. So you know what? I dump you. I dump you.
Gwen was by far the best character in the movie. I mean, I hands down, Gwen was my favorite character in the whole movie because she actually is emotionally healthy and a good person also. And Emma Stone is actually a good actress. Andrew Garfield is great. I felt like if I went back and watched the movie again, I'd want to sit down and actually count the amount of scenes where physical Andrew Garfield was on the screen speaking, because I felt like he was not a part of the movie. Like, I just felt like he was not there. He'd just wander around and would do stuff, and then things would just happen. And then, like, he was in the Spider-Man suit, or like a CGI Spider-Man jumping around. I don't know why. Like, for whatever reason, in that 2.5 hours, I felt like Andrew Garfield was just not there.
I didn't feel like that.
Yeah,
I mean, my biggest sadness about the movie now that I've seen it is that they cut Mary Jane, because from the production photos I've actually looked, and most of the production photos are of Gwen and MJ.
Did they actually shoot anything with her? Because
They shot everything with her.
Yeah.
They shot
'Cause
that whole storyline.
The what?
They shot the whole storyline. They haven't said what it was, but from what I can tell, it wasn't about MJ and Peter, except in passing. It was about MJ and Gwen being friends.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm pissed. Like, I understand it because that movie was pretty full, and it would have been hard to get it in there.
Yeah.
But,
No, but you shouldn't be pissed, though.
what?
Because now, instead of Shailene Woodley, we can get
Alan Droden. I mean,
fingers crossed.
that is true. That is true. But I actually, okay, so after I saw it, I ended up reading this fanfic, which I linked to in one of my articles because it is that good. But it was a whole fanfic of what would have happened if Gwen got the spider bite instead of Peter. And so basically it's a Spider-Gwen fic, like, hey, what if Gwen is Spider-Man? And in it, it has a characterization of MJ as based on Shailene Woodley and, like, what people know of her performance. And I was like, oh, holy crap, now I actually do want that. Because it's like angry punk, I do off Broadway acting because it's real. MJ. And it was just, I was like, I want that. I want that so bad. Oh my gosh. I want MJ, the angry punk from Queens. Patrick, you know you want it now.
No, I don't.
What?
You know, what if? I'd want one issue, not an entire series. I could take one issue, maybe. A what if comic where she's an angry punk, but no.
I mean, now that I read that fic, I'm like, how is this not like a 6-issue standalone arc of Spider-Gwen? Like, oh my gosh, do I want Spider-Gwen? I want it so bad. It was so good. But, I mean, that does relate to my other point, though, about how this whole movie is about, I mean, yeah, it's about Peter, but a lot of it is about Gwen and about the choices that Gwen makes and how Gwen as a character is full of agency and that she makes her own choices. Peter does not get to feel guilt over her death because that implies that her death was his fault, and that implies that Gwen did not choose it. And I really like that the film actually makes that point. I quoted Captain America, like the whole scene where Cap is getting all sad because, like, I should have saved Bucky and it's my fault and all that. And Peggy's just like, stop it. Allow him the dignity of his choice. He must have thought you were worth it. And there's so many versions of the story where Gwen dies because of something Peter did. and she dies because it's his fault and it gives him man pain. It was really nice to see a version of the story where Gwen dies because Gwen decided that she wasn't going to be spared, and she decided that she was going to help save the city. And so the reason Gwen is there is because Gwen chose to be there and she knew the danger going in. That matters.
She did that in both movies. I mean, she's the one that goes to Oscorp to develop the serum to reverse the mutations in the first movie too. Like, she chooses to go there and do all that stuff, knowing that the lizard will eventually come and try and stop her or kill her or whatever. I don't know. I think this is where we're gonna get into like probably the biggest disagreement on it. I am happy that they did go that route as a manner of fan service in putting in Gwen's death.
Okay.
For Peter's arc, because, and we talked about this before the movie came out, in that this movie is about Peter loving being Spider-Man. Like, he's been doing it for a while now, and he's good at it, and it's awesome to him. And to me, that did not translate in this movie. Like, I didn't see Peter as happy or there's a word, like, he wasn't overconfident as Spider-Man.
Right.
So to me, he didn't, in the comic books, it's supposed to, Gwen's death is supposed to teach him the lesson, basically, to not be too arrogant because he could lose anything at any time. That's how I interpret it.
Right.
And I did not get that from this. I got that he was sad because he had to break up with her, and then he stalks her, basically, for the whole movie. And then he's the one that keeps trying to get her away. So, like, to me, he already knew all of that stuff. Like, he was already very aware that she could get hurt, she could get killed, all of that. And him seeing her father is the reason that I didn't get this from Gwen's death. Because when he sees her dad in the beginning, he's already there. Like, he's already knows that she could be killed, and it would be because he didn't keep his promise. And so to me, like, it totally took the air out of it for me.
Yeah. So Dan, you're mad that the movie at no point in its running time confirmed with your idea of what the movie should have been?
That's not a character arc to me.
Well, okay.
Like,
the thing.
I mean, no movie is going to be exactly what I want it to be, but, like, if you're going to make a Spider-Man movie where Gwen dies, I want her death to actually mean what it's supposed to mean.
I kind of get what you're saying, Dan, because, I mean, basically, like, with the whole, Ghost of Dennis Leary thing, we're saying that, Peter fears Gwen's death because of him being Spider-Man, and what he feared happened, essentially.
Yeah, because that's the point. What you guys are missing is that the point of this was not that Peter is over. The story in the comics is bad. That is a bad story because it reduces Gwen from being a person to being a plot device. She's an example of how he can't take anything for granted. Well, that sucks. She's a person. She's not just a lesson or a cautionary tale to spur Spider-Man forward and give him emotional help. No, not done. And in this movie, Gwen makes her own choices. We never forget that at the end of the last movie, Peter is given the choice of, if he stays away from Gwen, she'll probably be safer. It would be, frankly, terrible writing if they just ignored that and were like, no, Peter thinks it's totally going to be fine if he dates Gwen and she's not going to be in any trouble. That would be very stupid and also disrespectful to the previous movie. What works better is telling a story where Peter comes to realize that he cannot make people's choices for them. That's what happens in the villain arc. He learns that he ultimately can't make Harry's choices for him. Harry is going to choose no matter what Peter does. Peter can try and influence that, but they are Harry's choices. And these are Gwen's choices. Gwen's death is not about Peter. Gwen's death is about Gwen. And that is what I love about this movie. Because I hate Gwen's death in the comics. I absolutely hate it. She dies to teach him a lesson? What the hell?
Yeah.
That's frigid. That is classic woman in the refrigerator. I don't want Gwen to die so that Peter learns responsibility. I want Gwen to die because Gwen chose a path that would lead to that.
The only thing I like about Gwen's death in the comics is that there's the ambiguity about whether or not she died from being thrown or if she died from Peter's webbing. That's kind of one of the
Well, they kind of do that in the movie too, though, because I mean, I only saw it once, but it's hard to tell if she hit the ground or not. Like when the web catches her, did she hit it? I couldn't tell when I saw it.
You hear a thud, like you hear a clear smack.
You hear her head smacking on the ground. What isn't clear is whether or not, because the web pulled her up, it caused her head to hit harder. Because that's what happens, is that like it pulls her up and her head sags down, and so her head hit harder as a result of the web than it might have otherwise if her entire body had been able to diffuse the force.
But even so, had the webbing not been there, she still would have.
She probably would have died.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no option here where she didn't die.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been.
In the comics, it's implied that the force of the web snapped her neck, like.
Right.
So
That's what I thought.
That he might have killed her.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at too, because I heard the thud, but I also didn't know if that was like her head, like her neck breaking, basically, because of the force of it catching her. So I didn't know what would. I don't know.
No.
But even
No, in this they did it pretty much. The fall is what killed her.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because there was just no way she would have survived. But I really love the fact that Gwen does not die for Peter's story arc, because that's shitty screenwriting.
That's not what I'm saying, though. I'm not saying that Gwen should be a plot device. I don't understand why she can't make her own choices, and then Peter's character arc is that he is an over-arrogant but still happy Spider-Man. Like, he's good at what he does, and he likes being the guy that saves people. But then at the end of the movie, the one person that matters the most in the world to him is the one that he can't save. And she chose to be there, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that. But, like, that's a superhero story to me. Like, that's what Superman should have been in Superman Returns, is that he comes back and he realizes he can't save everybody. Like, that's a version of Superman that I can relate to.
But that's not Spider-Man, because here's the thing, like, there's no way that movie could have made sense with the previous movie. That movie makes sense in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, the one you're describing, where he's overconfident and he's like, everything's great because I'm Spider-Man.
It makes perfect sense, though. He's the one he's at the end of the first movie. He's the one that tells Gwen that he's gonna break his own promise to her dead father. Like, he actively pursues her.
He does actively pursue her, which, for the record, is why I really like the scene where she dumps him.
No, that's great. Like, I have no problem with that.
However, I feel the need to point out that in the first movie, I feel like The Amazing Spider-Man really actually makes you feel that Peter is fully aware of his own mortality and the mortality of the people around him. And at the end of the movie, he uses that as an argument of why he should date Gwen. He should date her because they're both already in danger. But in this movie, I feel like it would have... I don't see Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as being cocky. I don't see him getting overconfident. That's not what this character is written to be. That's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. That's a huge part of that story. But this Spider-Man doesn't work like that. It would have been weird. It would have been really kind of confusing to see this Spider-Man being overconfident, because so much of who he is based in loss.
I'm on the total opposite side of that, especially with, like, the trailers and everything leading up to this movie. Like, they sold it that that's the way that Peter is supposed to be in this movie. I mean, there's that one trailer with the voiceover where he says, "You know what sucks about being Spider-Man? Nothing." And then
Actually,
it's him like
I
web
love
shooting.
being Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's something like he basically alludes to the fact that it's like the best thing that ever happened to him is becoming Spider-Man. And then, I mean, the opening of the movie is him like zipping around the city, like going, "Woo, yeah, this is awesome," and then landing on the top of a truck with like a radioactive substance in the back, with a guy with a machine gun in the cab, and he's telling jokes. Like, I like that version of Spider-Man. I like that he is smart and funny. And in the first movie, like, one of the main scenes, even in the trailers, was the thing where he stops the car thief, and the car thief says, like, "Are you a cop?" And he makes that joke where he's like, "Really? You think a cop will dress like this?" Like, to me, that's him being, like, overconfident. Like, he knows he can beat the Rhino. Like, he has no doubt in his mind in the beginning of that movie that he can beat all of those guys.
See, to me, that's not him being overconfident. That's him being honestly realistic. I guess I don't read that as overconfident. I read that as nice. Like, I'm okay with him really loving what he does. I don't think it's overconfident to love being Spider-Man necessarily. And I don't think that Peter spent this movie needing to be humbled. I guess
So what was, like, I guess I just need to have his character arc explained to me then, because I don't know what arc he had.
For me, in this movie, Peter Parker's character arc was about him learning that you can't always help people. And it's not about overconfidence. It's about overcommitting, almost. That Peter tries to save everyone. And that it's not overconfident to try and do that. It's overcompassionate. It's not that he had too much confidence in his own abilities. It's that he tried to do too much. And in a very real sense, what I like about this is that it's not the classic superhero arc where he caused the problem. He didn't cause the problem. In fact, one of the really interesting things is that both of the villains blame him for causing their problems, when in reality he had nothing to do with them. What I thought was interesting was that this is a movie about him choosing to get involved, even though it's not his fault. People blame him, yeah, but it's really not his fault. And he's choosing to help people anyways. And in the end, even though he sees what the cost is, he's choosing to do it anyways. And for me, that matters a lot. To have a character who is fundamentally good, who's not motivated by guilt, who's not motivated by revenge, just doing it because it's good and it's the right thing to do. And because he likes it, I don't think he was overconfident. I don't think he needed to be humbled. I think in a very real sense, this was a movie about him learning how to be Spider-Man and how to help people. Yeah, I think it's okay that he didn't have a super hardcore story arc. I think at some point, he just is the character he is. I mean, you're comparing this to Captain America? Yeah, Steve Rogers does not have a character arc in that movie.
Oh, no, I wasn't comparing it to Captain America. I just was saying when I left the movie theater, like, to me, I made the comment when we were leaving the theater, this movie is the exact reason that nobody except Disney should be able to make Marvel movies. Like, I didn't hate the movie, it just did not elicit, I mean, literally no emotions for me the entire time. Like, I just sat there and I was like, okay, like, this is a movie. Like, I had no... I liked Jamie Foxx after he became Electro, because he was weird right up until that. Especially the part where he wakes up in the morning and is like brushing his teeth, talking to the cutout of Spider-Man, and I was like, I don't know. Again, like a lot of my problems with the movie were mechanical problems. Like the song that they played during the montage where he's putting up all of the different newspaper clippings and stuff. I was like, what is this? Like, it's something super emo and hipster. Like it's I don't know. it just like bothered me for some reason. I just couldn't ever get into the movie. Like I just sat there and I was like, well, I guess this is 2 hours of my life that I'm never getting back. So
I completely disagree. I completely got into this movie because I mean, this movie totally did Spider-Man right because Spider-Man's life is awesome. Peter Parker's life sucks, and that's the way kind of always. That's always how the character is. It's like, everything awesome happens to Spider-Man. Everything bad happens to Peter. And everyone looks at Spider-Man like a hero and an awesome dude, and everyone looks at Peter like a flake and a guy who can never who never can live up to his commitments. And I thought this movie got that completely right. And the death of Gwen Stacy, they did it in a way that was better than the comics. I have to admit, though, I do wish that she had gone to England so she could get impregnated by Norman Osborn, but that's a whole different thing.
No. No.
That's a whole storyline from the comics that I know most people hate.
I mean, I did not get anything out of it. I mean, I hate to be the minority and that guy, but just like I get everything you're saying, but just like to me, it didn't ever connect. Like I was just never emotionally engaged in this movie at like any level. Like I'm not saying that every movie I like has to have something where I'm like weeping openly in the movie theater or anything, but I don't know. Like to me, it just was there, So.
Well, in reality, you're not the minority because apparently a lot of every time I read a critique of this movie, someone is like, I didn't like it. Like there's a lot of hate out there for this movie, and I didn't get it. I'm the minority for liking it.
I've read a lot of people who do love it, but I've also read a lot of people who hate it because it's so boring, and I don't entirely understand that because I love it.
Yeah, the boring thing I don't get at all because this had way more action than the previous movie. It had more action than any of the Raimi movies.
I hate the Raimi movies.
I like 1 and 2. I hate 3.
It currently has 54% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and 74% from fans.
Yeah. See, I think the critics are just hating on it to be like, oh, another superhero movie. Oh, how many more summers do we have to go with superhero movies? And
my 100% honest opinion about it is that there were just too many points in this movie where I was rolling my eyes at what was happening on the screen. There are two very specific examples that I have. One of them is when he's fighting Electro at the power plant, and Electro is zapping through the towers or whatever, and it's making those boom, boom, boom noises, and Spider-Man's reaction is, "I hate this song."
Well, because it was Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah, I mean, like I get it. It was just like the fact that the climactic battle in this movie was basically a Skrillex song bothered me.
But that's such a comic book thing. That's such what a villain does, like when he's battling a hero. He does something like, if it's Spider-Man, you're going to play Itsy Bitsy Spider.
No, that
Spider-Man villain does, because they're all so...
Yes.
So over the top, which that still, I get it. It's not the fact that he was doing it. The song, like, the fact that it was basically house music bothered me a little bit. But the part when there's like a shockwave or something happens at the power plant, and they do a wide shot of all the towers, and it's literally like a stereo equalizer. I was just like, really? Like, this is what we're doing right now? We're making stereo jokes? Like, it just bugged me. And then the other thing that really bothered me is the very end when the little kid comes out in front of Rhino and he's just standing there, and I'm like, what is Rhino doing right now? Like, why is he just
wondering why there's a little
there?
kid out there? Like,
It just did not. I was just like,
Oh.
okay.
That brought me to tears. That I had a little water rolling down my cheek, like, the little kid, so pretty.
I mean,
Hey, Patrick, did you hear that Andrew Garfield came up with that? That entire character is
I love Andrew Garfield. Then my only thing, it would have been better.
Andrew Garfield.
It would have been better
me in this.
if that had been like a little black kid, and we could have thought, oh, maybe that's Miles Morales. But that's a fanboy. That's a fanboy.
You said that too, but I actually have a rebuttal for that, which is simply don't hope that, because Miles Morales is actually unclear on who he belongs to. And there is a small possibility that he could belong to Marvel in terms of the copyright, which would mean that we could get Spider-Guy.
So we could get, like, Ultimate Miles Morales Spider-Man, like...
I mean, we couldn't use the word Spider-Man, just like they can't use mutants in the Avengers. They have to say miracles.
yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I'm okay if he's just sort of like codenamed the Spider or something. Or Spider-Guy.
Scarlet Spider. Call him Scarlet Spider. There you go.
I was gonna say, does Sony own all of the offshoots, like the Spider-Man that Tony creates the suit for and stuff like that?
I think they do, because it's Peter Parker in the suit.
Is it?
I think they own Peter Parker, basically. Like, they own Peter Parker Spider-Man, but Miles Morales is so new that it's unclear who owns him. And there's a small possibility it may actually be Marvel.
Yeah.
They don't own the name Spider-Man, so they can't use
They could put him
Miles
in a
Morales.
Spider-Man-ish costume and call him something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with that. Like, just put him in, like, a S.H.I.E.L.D. unitard and be like, hey, this is Miles. He acts like a spider sometimes. Don't ask questions. It's super soldier suit.
I want everything to go back to Marvel. I mean, I like these Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I kind of do want the next couple to fail, because I want everything to go back to Marvel.
Then we could have... Then we could have the beautiful Civil War. We could have Civil War, Patrick.
Civil War would be amazing. I would pay a lot of money to see Civil War happen.
Well, I mean, Marvel's slowly getting... I mean, they got Daredevil back, they got the Punisher back, they got Ghost Rider back.
Yay.
Hopefully the Fantastic Four movie will fail and they can get them back.
Right, but they're never, ever getting Spider-Man back. Like, let's be real on that. They're never getting Spider-Man back. And
Unless the next Spider-Man movie makes, like, $1.50.
The next Spider-Man movie is not going to make $1.50.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Unless, like, that movie is such a horrendous bomb. So, hey, maybe that is why people are hating on this one. Maybe the critics are actually trying to secretly help us. Like, it's some sort of secret plot among the critics.
It's a comic book fan conspiracy.
Exactly.
Well, actually, I do have to say, it would be really interesting if they did Civil War with Miles Morales as Spider-Man instead of Peter Parker.
Well, I mean, yeah, they would be interesting, but it would also take away a little bit of it, since one of the main things in Civil War is Peter revealing his secret identity.
Well, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Instead of it being Peter revealing his secret identity, it being Miles revealing his secret identity, and for the New York City police to realize that the masked vigilante is a Hispanic black teenager, and then to realize, like, oh my gosh, would the manhunt for him be so much more severe? Like, just the racial implications of unmasking Spider-Man and revealing that he's black in New York City, especially given what's currently going on with stop and frisk and racial profiling in New York City by the police, that would be crazy and awesome.
See Spider-Man swoop in to save the day, and just a bunch of cops start beating on him.
Yeah, all the things that were going through my head were not appropriate to say,
Yeah,
so I
I
just
know.
decided not to say them.
Thinking like, wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, just think about that, because that's basically like, a lot of people make comparisons to the fact that Miles Morales, when he first appears as Spider-Man, just that weird moment for him of the police being glad to see him. And you think about that in terms of the fact of, like, he's a black teenager in New York City. The police have never been glad to see him.
It's like,
He's never been glad
I'm
to
so
see
glad
them.
you're here. Not if I took off my mask.
Yeah, and it's just, for me, that's a more interesting thing. Andrew Garfield actually had a really awesome interview about this, talking about how when Spider-Man first came out, Peter Parker was an outsider because he was a nerd. But now, it's not really an outsidery thing to be a nerd anymore. Like, let's be real. It's
No.
really not.
No.
And so, he was just pointing out that in his portrayal of Spider-Man, there's not a whole lot making him feel like an outcast anymore. Like, they can play up class differences and socioeconomic differences, but ultimately, like, he's a white kid. He's a white middle-class kid. Like, whatever. And so Andrew Garfield was making the argument that this is why it's more compelling and more interesting if maybe Spider-Man is gay or bi. This was when he was making the argument of why Michael B. Jordan should play MJ, which was pretty cool. But I think of it also in terms of a race thing. Like, why can't Donald Glover be Spider-Man? If Spider-Man needs, and by necessity of the character, there's something very powerful about him being an outsider. Well, what's left? Race is still a very big divider. So it matters that Miles Morales isn't white.
I don't understand. I mean, I wouldn't see any problem with them recasting.
I'm okay with it.
I mean, look at the Avengers. Nick Fury.
Dude,
Yeah.
people are so... I mean, I still have my minor quibble about the Avengers, which is, seriously, we couldn't have hired a black actress. But I do like the idea of having a mixed-race family. They cast their dad now, and he's also black. And
Yeah.
people are like, what is happening? What ifs? But I do still think that Nicole Bahari would be such a good Invisible Woman.
Again, I want that movie to fail just so they can get the characters back.
Oh, hey.
What?
Okay, that topic. But speaking of actors who are in superhero movies a lot, like, say, Chris Evans and Jamie Bell, I just watched Snowpiercer, and I want someone else to watch it so I can talk about it with them.
I want to check it out. Is it in theaters right now, or is it on
Theaters
demand?
at the end of June. It's June 27th, but it's been out for over a year overseas, so it's actually really easy to get a copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is insane. Like, the cast is...
Rain going through the snow, right?
It's about our attempts to stop global warming accidentally set off a new ice age, which kills almost everyone on the planet, except for a couple hundred people on a train powered by a perpetual motion machine that travels constantly in a loop around the globe.
It's a pretty cool looking movie. I watched the trailer for it last week, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, Chris Evans and Jamie Bell are in it. So is Octavia Spencer, Tilda Swinton, John Hurt, and Ed Harris. It's got kind of an awesome cast. But it's like, so Chris Evans plays a guy who's in the tail end of the train. And basically the train is one big class system. The people in the tail are like the outcasts of society. They were the ones who couldn't buy tickets. And they just, they happened to grab hold of the train when it took off, and like they're the only people left of humanity. But up at the front of the train are the people who did buy tickets, who have money. And so they're the ones who get like choice food and, heat and warmth and good water. And then the people at the back get like protein bars, and they're all cramped in for space. And so Chris Evans' character is leading a revolution to overthrow the class system on the train. And it is Amazing and terrifying and very confusing and very good. And you should watch it so I can talk about it.
Sounds good.
I'm feeling.
You'll have to watch it, I guess.
I want to see that, and I want to see Under the Skin. I heard that was really cool.
I haven't seen Under the Skin yet, but I do want to see it. I really want to see Lucy.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, I'll probably see that. I'm a big Luc Besson fan. So.
I want to see what kind of drug you have to ingest to get superpowers. Smuggling.
I'm actually expecting that I'm gonna kind of like go crazy in that movie because basically the trailer. There's the part of me going like, oh my gosh, it's a standalone female superhero movie starring Scarlett Johansson, and it's what I want it. It's so wonderful, and then I'm like, but literally the beginning of the trailer is super racist. She shoots a guy for not speaking English in Hong Kong. She shoots a guy for not speaking her language.
He didn't speak English. It was that he was just kind of like, go, get the fuck out of here.
No, that's still literally like, she shoots him because he doesn't speak English. Like, can you understand how that would be hella offensive to everyone for whom English is not their main language?
I assume that it happens like right after she escapes her cell, and so the taxi drivers are implied bad guys. Like they work for the people that put the drugs in her.
After you escape from, like, you know, international drug dealers, you can shoot people for whatever reason you want. Like, you have a piece of gum. No.
No. Just because, I mean, like, yay, we get a movie about a female superhero. I would also like one now that is mildly racially sensitive. Like, at all. I'm just saying it's going to be conflicting for me.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, way back, my boss once said, you can have things fast, you can have things good, you can have things cheap, you can pick two. You can't get all three.
I mean, I've heard that rule when applied to dating. You can have emotionally stable, good-looking, and interesting, but you can only pick two.
Well, it's like kind of like, you know, okay, she's a female superhero, but, you know, who's not racist. It's like, you can't.
I know, I'm just saying, like, Patrick, let's dream the impossible dream here. Let's dream of a day when we can have a standalone female superhero movie that's not hella racist.
Well, we don't know that Lucy is hella racist. We've just seen this one racist scene.
I'm just saying that in 2 minutes, they managed to make it racist.
Yeah,
like,
but she could be, like, super not racist the rest of the movie.
Okay, Patrick, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you genuinely believe that the rest of the movie will not be racist?
Probably not. If anything, it might get even more racist.
It probably will. Like, let's be real here. Do we really think that this movie's not going to be racist? That having been said, however, I'm really excited for it, and I really want to see it.
Well, though, actually, I think maybe it makes sense that we have this scene, because I think later she does learn to speak all the languages because she gets super telepathy and she can, like, absorb everything.
Right. That doesn't make it okay, though.
Well, I think we need to show that she only speaks English, and then later it's really impressive when she doesn't. And she doesn't kill a cab driver for not speaking the same language.
That's not a good excuse. You've done better.
I'm just saying.
I expect better.
You should watch the movie.
I expect better defenses from you. Also, yeah, I'm totally going to watch the movie anyways. Like, there's really no doubt of that.
I mean, who knows? You could watch the movie and like, wow, this is not racist at all. I completely agree with her.
The first line of my review...
I would have shot that guy.
Patrick, if that happens, the first line of my review will be, wow, this movie was way less racist than I thought it would be from watching the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, you could watch the movie, and then your review could be like, this movie is even more racist than I thought it would be from the trailer.
Patrick was very wrong.
Yes. Feel free to put that in your review. Patrick was wrong.
Oh, I will. Oh, I will.
Okay, I think we have nothing else to say about Amazing Spider-Man since we're talking about Lucy. So next week, we're going to talk Godzilla
Yeah.
and just kaiju movies in general.
Wait, does that mean we can talk about Pacific Rim the entire time?
We can talk about Pacific Rim and other big monster movies.
But mostly Pacific Rim?
You can talk about Pacific Rim. I will actually have to see the new Godzilla movie.
The early reviews from Godzilla are saying that it's pretty much the best movie ever. So
Okay, well, I look forward to that.
yeah, I saw one that was like, "This is what a summer blockbuster movie should be all the time." So
I just want to see a review that says Matthew Broderick can suck it.
that's already implied. I don't need a review of that. That's just
Yeah.
implied.
I figured that's just implied in like the fact that they're making another Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
We should also, at some point in the near future, have a TV discussion again because Constantine got picked up, I think, to series.
I saw the trailer for that.
Yeah, I got it up on another tab. I was going to watch it as soon as we were done. But there were a bunch of things that got canceled. Thankfully, Hannibal was not one of them, so I still have a job.
Well, we're talking Godzilla next week, X-Men the next week, and the week after that we'll do TV because I don't have a subject yet.
We can't stop without acknowledging for a moment of silence. Agent Carter is going to be a TV show.
That is awesome.
A moment of silence.
Super
That's a moment of woo! Yeah!
I'm pretty stoked about that.
No moment of silence for that.
Did she sign on to do the show? Like, I don't know. Is she going to be in it?
Oh, no. She's in it. Dominic Cooper's in it as Howard Stark.
Nice.
The writers.
And we might even get some guest spots from Tommy Lee Jones, hopefully.
The writers of Captain America: The First Avenger are executive producing, and the showrunners are going to be the showrunners of Reaper, which is a 2-woman writing team. Oh my gosh!
I just hope that this is a step toward the Black Widow movie. I want Black Widow to get her own movie, and
she's getting her own movie.
No, she's
is
not.
She for sure?
That's not actually official. I checked.
Yeah, it's still rumored. But I want it to be Black Widow and Falcon, just because I want Falcon to be in every Marvel movie ever from now on. So.
I want it to be Black Widow and Maria Hill, but
that would be cool too.
I mean, like, if you guys are up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I've really enjoyed Maria Hill's casual, like, oh, I'll tell Natasha that you said that. And, hey, Pepper, I have to call you back. Just, oh, Natasha, just casually walking through your TV show, being friends with all the ladies of Marvel. I love it.
All right. Well, that is all stuff we will talk about later.
Okay.
So, this has been, Crossover Appeal.
It's a pleasure arguing with you.
Yep.
Yes.
See everybody next week.
Bye.